Welcome to the Create the Life You Want podcast, where we break down the journey of people just like you going from dream to ownership in business acquisitions, franchises, and startups. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames. Today's episode is brought to you ad-free by Guidant Financial. Guidant is America's leading company helping aspiring entrepreneurs use retirement funds to buy or start businesses. If you're committed to buying or starting a business, you can find out more about your funding options by going to www.guidantfinancial.com. That's Guidant financial.com. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Create the Life You Want podcast. Today, I am joined by Franco and Wendy Salerno, and I'm very, very excited to hear their story. They started a bridal and tuxedo shop, and they have a really interesting story arc of both how they started the business and some of the big wins and some of the challenges they faced along the way. So would love to dig into it. Franco and Wendy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, let's start with the question I always start with, which is, when did you decide you wanted to be a business owner? Was this was a seed germinated in your mind long ago, or was there some point in your life at which you thought, I'm thinking this might be a path we want to take?
Well, I mean, we kind of started out in real estate. So I think, working together in real estate is how we started. And it's great to not have that particular boss. To be your own boss is something I think that drives a lot of entrepreneurs right into that kind of thing.
But the need was what really drove our
business. Yeah.
Our foundation in the business. There was a need that we felt was unfulfilled in this area, and that's basically how this business was born.
So you had been self-employed for a while then. You're working in real estate. You've already had the experience of working together. Tell us about how you uncovered this need. What was the frustrating thing you found that you decided was painful enough that you were going to create it?
So our oldest daughter, was in the 9th grade, and she started getting invited to formal dances. And that's an exciting time. And I realized that there really wasn't a close store to us to buy a formal dress. So going into her high school years, she was invited to more. And I became more and more frustrated at the lack of available stores to purchase a dress from. And in traffic one day, I said, hasn't anyone thought to open a prom store in our area? And I said, I'm going to do that. So that's actually how it started. It was frustration in traffic to go buy a prom dress.
Okay, Wendy, let's be honest though. Lots of people have frustrations, especially in traffic, where they say, this is very, very annoying. Not many people actually then turn around and say, well, I'm going to create this thing in the world. So what was it that triggered for you in that moment?
So quickly, I thought, hasn't anyone thought to do this? We're in a very populated area. There's quite a few school districts around us. And I thought, I can't be the only parent who's saying the same thing. So prom is seasonal, and what goes along with prom is bridal, and we work together. So tuxedo kind of came into the mix. And as I thought about it, there really weren't many places at the time that were servicing those customers, the prom and bridal and tuxedo customers. So I felt that could work, and did a little research on populations of the schools and that kind of thing. And we talked about it and thought it would work.
Okay. So you have this car epiphany. You start to do a little research. Then what? It's not like a business magically happens just because you think it into existence. So what were some of the major steps that you went through once you had this epiphany and thought, hey, I want to look at maybe spinning something up here?
So we were coming back from a...
It sort of did just magically happen.
It did, actually. So we were coming back from a wedding from overseas, and on a drink napkin from the airline, we basically wrote out an abbreviated business plan. and we started searching for real estate, and we were basically shot down by most people because they said to us, wait a minute, you have no experience in this industry, you have no retail experience. And we said, no, we don't. So that was the first hurdle, because people basically told us we want national or regional chains in our shopping center. We want this. I mean, there was no research that even went in to us from their part, like no credit check, no financial statements, nothing like that. They just basically said, no, we want regional and national chains in our website, in our shopping center. So that was the first hurdle that we kept looking for real estate. Second hurdle was funding. This took a little bit of, timing and funds to do a build out, to get inventory, because the inventory in this business will kill you. It is backbreaking if you don't manage it properly. So then we stumble upon basically what Guidant does in terms of helping you fund a business with your own funds, which was perfect for us. No boss, no bank, no, no one breathing down our neck about anything. And then we basically went through the motions. We actually researched two different companies, Guidant and another one, and we felt much, much more comfortable with Guidant. The other company, as you can see, we're a little bit older, much more older now than we were when we started this. But the other company, when we would speak to them, we didn't get a sense of trust. And Guidant gave us the sense of trust and honesty, and we just pulled the trigger, and that's where it started. So basically, 3 months after that cocktail napkin business plan, we were open.
Okay, let's back up here. So how did you figure out how much all of this was going to cost? First of all, you'd never had an experience with inventory. You'd never presumably done a TI build out for a commercial space. So how did you figure out, what did you plan for?
We basically just we found a space a mile from our house, and the landlord was very interested in speaking to us. And we basically had a contractor come and take a look at the space, and we drew out on a little piece of paper, this is what we want and how much would it cost to do this. So we started with that.
We negotiated with the landlord to help us with a little build out money. So it was conservative budgeting, I think.
Yeah. So what we did is we started with like a financial plan, and we said this school has this many students in 11th and 12th grade, and this many may go to prom. This is a lot of made up drivers, to be very honest with you. Yeah. So we said there are 400 students in 11th and 12th grade, probably 50%, I don't remember the numbers right now, 75% go to prom. Not everybody goes to prom. And we could probably, and we were very conservative, capture 10% of those for prom gowns. And then we just started building that revenue out. And then as this was occurring, we got our rent negotiated. We knew our rent number. We estimated utilities. We estimated payroll. And then we built a financial plan. So that's basically how we did it. Things went better as planned, to be honest with you. The first 6 months of opening, we were out of room. So back then, before the social media companies started trying to generate a lot of revenue, when you posted something to Facebook or Instagram, everyone saw it. And we were basically overrun with prom. We opened on January 7th, 2013. We were overrun with people buying $350 to $500 prom dresses.
Well,
so that's basically how it started.
I love the story there. You may not think it's magical, but you'd be surprised how many people start businesses without taking some guesses on those key assumptions. So you based it on some form of logic, right? And knew you were probably going to be wrong, but at least you had something then to modify. So how wrong were you? You were estimating 50% of kids go to prom and 10% were going to hit your store. What ended up being the reality?
So what happened was there were a lot more students, a lot more students that came to us for prom breakdown. So the revenue,
there wasn't anything in the area before. Now
so
we're here.
The revenue was through the roof. It was
Right.
crazy. Expenses were pretty spot on because we knew what they were and we, had a good idea of those. The big surprise for us is inventory. So kind of the inventory math is you sell $1 million of product, cost you $500,000 to purchase it, and then you have 150. I'm making up numbers. You have $150,000 of operating expenses. So now you have $350,000 left over. Darn, I need another $500,000 of inventory. Short, So it's almost like, success can really be wonderful unless you have a shortage from your operating expenses. So that was immensely challenging.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, which is success can sink businesses that are inventory dependent because even growth creates this massive cash need. So how did you figure it out? This is the first time you're doing it. So what happened and what did you learn from that experience?
So we still had money left over from the initial investment. Mm-hmm. So we were using that, but then we were trying to kind of piggyback our suppliers by just doing reorders. So, I need this $350 prom dress. Just order it, and then we don't. It's already a sale. We got the money for it, and they're 45 minutes from us. They'll send it UPS. The margin's not as good, but we don't have to finance it.
Got it. So you'd keep like one model in the store, and
Correct.
then you'd basically have them drop ship it to you.
Correct.
Oh, smart. So that's how you manage it. So that allowed you were essentially through shipping, because your shipping costs were going to be higher, paying for getting rid of the inventory risk.
Correct.
Yes.
Which makes sense with prom because people come in and they don't need it that same day.
Right.
No. Yep.
And same with bridal. Brides will come in 9 to 12 months before their wedding. So we have a little bit of a buffer there too.
How has marketing changed? I mean, it's interesting. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I often hear stories of people saying it was the perfect timing that we got in because we were able to do this marketing thing when it was inexpensive. And it sounds like that was true with some of the early days of Facebook. Were there other things you found that really worked for marketing, or how has that shifted in your business? Because you've been at this for more than 10 years, right?
Yeah, so in the beginning, to get the name out, it wasn't just, the Facebook and the, early Instagram, but we did a lot of bridal shows, local bridal shows we would go to. Joining a chamber of commerce. There were other ways that we were trying to get our name out. We also partnered with a local photographer who did teen modeling. And that was a really great idea. That generated so much excitement, and these girls would come and try on dresses and they would get their picture taken, and it was all in our store. And we would have contests. So we did things like that. Now it's much more, I would say, sophisticated as far as website and SEO and that kind of thing. Facebook doesn't really go anywhere, and we don't pay for those ads.
We don't do Facebook ads or Instagram ads anymore. If you were to ask us what would we have done differently, we got involved with chambers of commerce back when we first started, and they were immensely supportive. They got our names out there. They sung our praises because there was no competition. No other bridal or tuxedo stores were members. So we were the ones showing up and showing our face. There was a gentleman in there many years ago, and he said to us, content is king. You need to publish content on your website. And I said, yeah, whatever you say. I don't have time for that. If I were to go back today, I would have started publishing content 12 years ago. Because now we publish content. Everyone thinks AI is taking over and Google is dead. It's 80% of our business. We pay Google nothing. And we have so much content on there, and there is so much traffic on our website. We get appointments like that. They just keep coming through, and they find it organically on our website.
When you say content, what do you mean? Written content, pictures, and your business, what does that show up as?
All of that.
All of that
All of
written
that?
content,
All of that.
photos, we do videos, we have short videos embedded in our blogs. If you go on our blog page, there are 46 pages of 10 to 15 blogs on each page.
We have Pinterest and YouTube channel. You know, now it's all TikTok. We have girls love to come in and do the TikToks on there, and you know, in our store. But yeah, it has changed quite a bit. But I just find it to be a bit more sophisticated in content.
Absolutely.
How are you? I'm curious because now social media is super prevalent and probably, especially with the younger crowd that is doing the, coming in for proms and dances. So how do you tap into that where you're getting them in some way to tag Darianna or show your business as the place that they're at? Is there anything you do to support that?
We offer for them if they want, hey, they're going to do it anyway. Hey, why don't you do a TikTok? And they will tag. Some of these girls, they'll go to a number of stores. They'll say, follow me for my prom shopping. So you'll see their TikTok and they're in a number of stores and they'll tag them. So, that doesn't help that they go all over the planet trying dresses on, but we have in our store our logo that's kind of all over the place, so you'll see that.
We have these decals up on the wall all over the place. I said yes to the dress at Darianna Bridal and Tuxedo. So it's really hard not to get into the video or into the photo. And what we're finding is we have a very strong brand search component where people will Google or you DuckDuckGo, whatever, Bing, they will search our name and we will show up. And then we integrate everything: TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn business page, and we get a lot of signals throughout. And then a lot of things have happened, kind of lightning struck twice for us recently. On April 26, 2023, Apple featured us on their website. So what happened is our payroll, at one of our business processing companies is Square. They came to us and said, hey, will you test this new product we're kind of developing with Apple? And I said, sure. We tested it for 3 to 6 months. I forget how long. It wasn't available publicly. It's called Tap to Pay, where the staff can just take their iPhone and take the card and go tap right onto the card and the payment goes right through the phone. And so we tested it. Square did an article on us on their website, which is no small feat. Publicly held company featured us with a backlink and everything. Apple saw it and said, we want to talk to them. They featured us, and we kind of watched Domain Authority. I know it's kind of an unofficial thing. Our Domain Authority, our web company said, went up as many points that it would take 13 to 15 years. It went up in 3 weeks. And then in June of this year, we're having dinner at home and we get an email from Apple saying we want to feature you in our ads. And boom, now we're
on there now.
We're on there in their ads.
So let's go back to the start of the business and talk to us about when you decided to start the business. Did you both leave what you were doing full time to do that, or did one of you spend more time on it and the other one kind of inched in over time? Walk us through how that dynamic played out.
I think you stayed in for a little bit longer just to close out a few things that we still had going, but as soon as that was done, anything that we could, you turned over to
other people,
to other agents, and then just jumped right in.
We just walked away. Yeah, I was probably in it for 6 to 12 months before, and then I actually started going crazy because we didn't have tuxedos and suit rentals immediately, but then we added them, and then it took off. It went crazy. And I started going crazy because I couldn't do both things. So I just walked away and we started to concentrate strictly on our business.
But we knew nothing.
Yeah. Was there anything strategic about that? Were you planning to keep this side thing? And then once it took off, you're like, I can't keep doing that. Or did it sort of evolve, or was this all part of the plan from the beginning?
So one day we were having lunch with one of the designer reps, and this is before we decided to do suits and tuxedos. And she said to us, it's really easy to offer suit and tuxedo rentals. And we looked at each other and said, we never even thought of that. Mm-hmm. And when we started it, it started, in the beginning you think, oh my goodness, I'm doing so much business. Now it's like you're getting pummeled. It's like on top of transaction after transaction. And when we saw that go into effect, we thought, what, we don't need to. So to answer your question, I don't think I anticipated staying in the other business. I wanted to be full into our business, but I was just trying to transition out several transactions we had. And then we actually just started giving away our listings and transactions to people. We didn't want anything for it here. We got enough to do.
Yeah. And so originally you started off then as Darianna Bridal, and then
Correct.
Did you just put like duct tape a partial sign on the bottom of that said "and tuxedo" at some point, or did you rebrand? How did that all work?
So yes, we were just Darianna Bridal in the beginning. We knew within about 6 months that we needed a bigger space, and that's a great story in itself to how we got a new space. But we wound up in 2015 moving into a space that's about triple the size. Okay. And that was our opportunity to rebrand. So new logo, new sign. Yeah, we rebranded everything, and it's a force. It's a real force now. We're really blessed with it.
So I registered with the Department of State doing business as Darianna Bridal Inc. I registered it as Darianna Bridal and Tuxedo. And then several years later, I got nervous about receiving a cease and desist letter about, hey, that's my name, you can't use it. So we registered our name. So we have a registered trademark, so we don't have to deal with someone saying, hey, that's my name.
Got it. And where did the name come from?
It's our two daughters, Daria, who was the catalyst for all of this, and our younger one, Deanna. So it's Daria and Deanna, or Darianna. That's how we did that. Stick it together. And they both work in the business, so it's a true family business that we're all in there. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Is that something they plan to do for a long time? Is this maybe a longer term business where you're thinking about selling it or gifting it to your kids? Like, how do you think about that?
Well, we talk about that quite a bit. Where do we want to go with this? What's the industry going to be like? Who knows how many weddings there are going to be? It changes every year, and prom is different for Gen Z than it was for millennials. They shop in a different way. So there's a lot of back and forth that we do about this, whether they want it or not, whether we would love to decide to sell it someday. So I don't know really where we are with that, but we do talk about what we're going to do.
We're trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about maybe the hardest time that you've had in the business. And Franco, as I understand that was sort of around 2019. Am I
2020,
that
yes.
Right?
March 2020.
Oh yeah, well, that was hard for everyone, but I think it was especially hard for you. So maybe you could talk a little bit about sort of that time in the business and what happened and how you had to evolve.
Yeah, so it was not a time for everybody. I mean, did you want to tell?
Yeah, sure. So in March 5th of 2020, which was about a week before the whole world shut down, I believe that I had COVID, but there were no tests at that time to check. And I happened to pass out, and I wound up fracturing my neck. And I spent a week in the ICU. I was paralyzed from the chest down. A week in the ICU, and wound up in a rehab for a month after that, living in a rehab to learn how to walk again and use my hands again and all of that. Not an easy time, but while I'm gone in the hospital, they shut down, visitors. No visitors were allowed to come. Oh. And then on, I believe it was the 13th.
Sounds about right.
They shut our business down. So I'm paralyzed in a rehab and our business is shut down. So I wasn't quite as worried at that time about the business, but he's worried about both. And it was just a time that you cannot imagine in our household.
Yeah, it was a scary time. So all non-essential businesses were shut down in our state on or around March 13th. So think about it. Most of our buying is between October and February. So we're buying, enormous amount of inventory.
Massive.
So in expectation of bridal and prom season, so we have all these bills and no revenue because everything's shut down. So that was a scary time. And then her condition.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just having your store shut. It was the fact that they're canceling all these events. People aren't having as many weddings. They aren't having school dances.
Correct.
Yeah, that all proms were canceled that year. The weddings, if anybody did wind up keeping their wedding date, it was a backyard wedding. They did something in the house and then pushed their larger wedding off for following year, even 18 months out. But most everything was canceled.
So we had two frightened daughters about, mom. When I got to the emergency room, the physician said, I'm not sure she's going to make it.
But I did.
Not only did you seem like you're doing great, but I do want to go back and understand. So, this is like the low of lows, right? You're not just worried about the business going under, you're worried about the most important person in your world maybe not being there. So what do you do in that point?
So yeah.
What did you
do? Yeah,
focused on the girls.
I started negotiating with our landlord, about, rent because they wanted their rent and we were closed. So I came up with an agreement on that. Started negotiating with vendors on, hey, you'll get your payment. You're not going to, not get your payment. And then how to strategize this because look, she had to learn how to walk again. And that it was almost a perfect storm in a good way because everything was shut down. She comes home from rehab and then I'm basically helping her with everything. How to learn how to walk. We would, try to take walks every day. Rehab's shut down, so you can't go and get physical therapy because the world is shut down. So we start walking with a walker in our neighborhood to learn how to walk again. And then our oldest daughter and I think mom's going to go crazy. She needs something to do with her mind.
Yeah, so this is actually very interesting what kind of turned things around for us, which really helped.
Absolutely.
I didn't know what to do. I was just going to fall into this insane depression. And he gave me the task of blogging. And they set me up with the voice to text and sit here and blog. And so I was blogging about the business. I was just keeping my mind occupied and doing what I could. And that's why we have 46 pages of blogs. But it's actually paid off. And I didn't start out doing it because, this is going to help the business someday. It was really to keep me from...
You needed a project. You needed something to keep you...
from falling into a depression. Yeah. And it all seemed to work out.
She couldn't use her hands. She was using Siri. She was dictating to her MacBook these blogs. And that's basically how she was doing it, publishing it to our website and creating... we have... it's 400 to 600% more traffic now than we used to. It's incredible. And our oldest daughter, stepped in and basically took
my spot.
Took her spot and started to run the bridal side of the store. And now that's basically her job.
Do you still do a lot of the blogging? Did you find something that you just loved within that?
It's almost like a puzzle now because can we tell them about Rank?
Yeah, so we stumbled upon a piece of AI software that helps you optimize your blogs.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very good with the written and spoken word. Me, not so much. So it's a game. It helps you optimize your blogs with keywords that will put you onto the top of Google or, Bing or wherever you wish. And so that's our game pretty much every day of how to optimize this and get noticed throughout the internet.
Write new ones and re-optimize old ones. And yeah, it's just there's content. It's a great industry. It's an exciting industry, and there's always something to write about, or a dress to feature, or colors, or trends, or all of that, and it never runs out. And so yeah, it's sort of my thing.
There's several really beautiful things in that story, Wendy. Both the idea of how the business gave you something to focus on other than the fear about what was happening physically. And I think this passion that it brought out inside of you for the thing that you do, because it didn't sound like when you started this business, it was like, hey, I'm all about dresses that are $350 and that you wear to prom. But being in this business, the labor, I've heard the term labor becomes love. And I hear that in your voice when you talk about all these things that I imagine if you talked to the 20 years ago Wendy, she would be thinking, what is Wendy talking about?
Probably not right. You're right. Yeah. I like to tell people we didn't know what we didn't know opening this business. I mean, I did not know retail. You didn't know inventory or any of it. We did not know. I was not interested in the bridal world. I had never, always dreamed about opening this. Absolutely not. But getting into it was very eye-opening to watch what other stores, there weren't a lot around at the time, but since we popped up, a few others have, but you saw ones who had been around for 40 years all of a sudden, oh wait, there's a new, they're doing it differently. Oh, they don't know what they're doing because this is the way to do it, and we've always done it this way, and this is what works. Well, we jumped ahead of them pretty quickly because that's the kiss of death, I think, to say we've always done it this way and this is what works.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous statement to think that because you've been doing it for so long that way.
Yeah, there's some advantage in not having the ruts in your mind of the status quo of the way things operate today. I'm curious, you had this experience being self-employed. What did you think life was going to be like when you went from self-employed to now managing a true business with employees and inventory and all the other complexities that a business has? Like, what were you expecting it to look like? And what did it actually end up looking like?
I can say what I expected it to be, that little business that we opened originally, that it was going to be this cute little dress store and bridal store, and it was going to be a little mom and pop. And we try to keep the family business. We try to keep that feel, but it has become a lot bigger than I imagined. What the U.S. Chamber of Commerce just named us as one of the top 100 small businesses for 2024.
Congratulations.
Out of over 14,000, we were one of the top 100. I never saw anything like that coming. I don't know that you did, but maybe.
Yeah, we focused on competing on service. I always tell people we don't sell wedding dresses. We create an experience that will make a really wonderful memory that will last a lifetime. And that's why I think these online places can't really compete with that, because you can't compete with mom or grandmom crying at the moment that you say yes to your dress. That experience is so powerful. And I guess we never really told you in the beginning, the first thing we did, besides look for real estate, was we went online and looked at what were the top complaints in bridal stores
what did you find?
around the country, not just in our area. And there were 3 complaints. Store is dirty, and we keep a really clean store. 2, the stores, exaggerate, and let's call it what it is. They lie. And the biggest lie in this industry is if you come in a year before your wedding, a lot of stores will tell you if you don't buy your dress today, it'll never come in on time. And we kind of ruined that for people. We're like, you're fine. It takes 3 to 5 months. You have plenty of time. Don't worry about it. And number 4 is I think people are burned out in this business. They're mean. They're aggressive. And I think part of it is it's a commission-based thing, and they want that sale. So they're going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
We pay our people properly. We give them really nice bonuses. There's no commission involved. So no one feels pressure. If you look at our reviews, people say it was the most relaxed, fun environment. We even tell our staff, let them go. They'll be back. And they always, always come back. So it's been, that's basically how we created the foundation. And stores couldn't compete because you're supposed to pressure people to buy and scare them that, you'll never get your dress on time if you don't do it today.
I love that, Franco. I hope you appreciate how genius that is and how simple to just say, hey, we're going to go into this industry. Let's go do some research online and find out what are the common things that people complain about. And let's turn that into the places where we have a competitive advantage. Yeah. Brilliant.
And since 2016, you've been able to text our store landline number, and our customers love that. I mean, we're always on, 9:00 tonight. If you text us, we'll write you right back. But it has been a competitive advantage.
Well, earlier you had said you're so grateful for the experience of becoming business owners because it's changed your life. And the title of this podcast is Create the Life You Want. So I would love to hear about how has it changed your life? How have you used your business as a way to design the life that you want to live?
So when we first started this, like we said, we had no experience in it. So we would go to designers, wedding dress designers, and say, we'd like to place an order. And they'd look at us and say, well, wait a minute, you have no experience. Absolutely not. We need a credit card. Well, you're not going on terms because you have no experience in this. We're like, fine. We give them a credit card. And we started selling a lot of dresses and a lot of things. And all of a sudden, we're racking up millions of miles.
Airline miles.
Yep.
And next thing you know, every Black Friday, we're going to Europe with our daughters. And, we're taking these memorable family trips and making memories that just make us smile and make us remember that, there's something coming that is going to bring us all together and share the moment. Other things we've been able to really help out a lot of the local schools. We donate a lot to the local schools.
The theaters.
Mm-hmm. And we've done a lot. We don't really advertise that because, we just do it for the right reason. And we're hoping our daughters eventually may take this and, do it. And she and I can step back and maybe spend some time together outside of the business.
And Daria is a wish granter for Make-A-Wish. So that's, we've always been very...
It's all about the kids.
Yeah.
For us.
For sure. It's all about the kids. So, any of the St. Jude's, the Make-A-Wish, we always support as much as possible.
And how old are the daughters now?
So Daria is 29 and Deanna is 16. Daria is getting married herself on New Year's Eve. So we're in the thick of planning a wedding. So obviously it's black tie since we have a business.
Yeah, you got some inventory on hand.
We do. We know just where to go.
Oh, that's fun. And she's working in the business. I'm curious, there's a couple dynamics here happening. One is the two of you working in a business together, which you had a little bit of experience with that on the real estate side as well. But now also working with your kids, like how your relationships with your daughters evolved? How has your relationship together evolved in operating a business together?
So I think I would say it's overall very positive. I think it's been good that we've been able to model certain behaviors, certain work ethic. Now, so Daria is a millennial and Deanna is Gen Z, and they really are night and day. mean, they look at things very different. I mean, we're Gen X, so we're from Mars, you know, they have no idea what we're talking about. But I think overall it's been very positive. The only thing that sometimes creeps up is that we talk about the business
All the time.
so much.
Yeah.
So much. And there's no way around that. But, you know, aside from going on vacation and leaving all of that behind, or, you know, it's birthday party, we don't talk business, but the chat's going off.
Yeah.
So I think it's been great. Overall, I watch them both moving into their roles and learning things, learning how to manage, learning, you know, how to problem solve on their own without, you know, dad, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's been positive. You?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, our 16-year-old is now doing bridal appointments. I mean, she seems like a 40-year-old the way she's talking to people. So it's been a good experience, at least personal development for them, and beats the heck out of working for somebody else. How's that?
Yeah, talk about that. I mean, you kind of were self-employed before. Are there any differences that are meaningful when you think about the real estate self-employment versus the bridal business?
I would say it's probably just we have a lot more control.
We have a lot more control. We actually took things from real estate that we learned. Like every bride will receive a handwritten note from us, which we took that 100% from real estate. You know,
follow up.
On
Get them
sale.
Get them back.
The beauty is that we've actually scaled this business now where the cash flow is basically positive 12 months a year. And in real estate, if you don't sell something, you make nothing. So COVID kind of put us in the right place because it taught us to be more efficient and have a rainy day fund and
less
waste and keep that, you know, generating now. So it's in a way we like this a lot more because you can see immediately when you implement something whether it works or not, and then you can pivot and change your strategies, and it's been amazing. Plus it's a great story. I mean, look, we dress so many people now. People recognize us. It takes me 45 minutes to get some butter because people recognize you, which is a wonderful thing. And it's good. It's good for our brand. I mean, I always talk to people. I never say no. And you know, it's so I recognize their face, but I don't remember the name. But once I get them talking a little bit, I can sometimes recognize who it is.
Yeah. I'm curious to go back to something you said, Franco, because you said you got the business to a point where it's basically cash flowing 12 months out of the year. And I just want to acknowledge that's no small feat in a historically seasonal business. So what have you done strategically to say, how do I smooth out the off times of the year?
So 40% of brides and grooms get engaged between Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. So on January 2nd, all the brides and prom goers, female prom goers, are out looking for their dresses. So that starts to hit really hard. Two, you have starting in March, April, and then May and June, you have spring weddings and prom. So that's a huge, another hit of heavy revenue. And then summer is popular for weddings, but one of the other popular times to get engaged over the year is July 4th. So then all of a sudden you have July 4th brides coming out looking for their dresses. And then September, October, we lose 7 years of our lives every September, October because it is intense. Because where we live is very beautiful with the leaves, the changing of the leaves and the weather. And everybody wants to get married in September, October.
Yeah, and you've got homecoming and other things like that probably on top of that.
Yeah, we do. Homecoming in our area isn't nearly what it is in other areas, but they definitely do. You know, they're out for the homecoming dances and football games and things like that. But it's not as big here as prom.
Prom's the big show.
Yeah.
So, and then people get married up through like Thanksgiving. A lot of teachers get married over those holidays because they can't get time off.
In the summer.
Either the summer or over Thanksgiving or other December holidays. So we have email marketing campaigns to our brides where, we really follow up. We send handwritten notes and we try to cross-sell without selling our other products. One of the bride dresses, one of the groom dresses, suits and tuxedos, our wedding dresses. We do wedding gown preservation services. So we try to hit various pieces of the revenue. We offer $25 gift cards to the mother of the bride and groom for their dresses. So that has kept the revenue constant 12 months a year.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, given the exposure that you have in your community and how much the business has grown, that you get people all the time who are coming to you asking for advice, that they're thinking about maybe becoming a business owner or starting their own company. I'm curious, based on all the things you've learned over a decade plus of doing this together, what's maybe the most common or the most important thing that you share with those people?
Be ready to work 7 days a week. If you're not committed to what you're doing, don't do it. It's a constant grind. Even now, this many years later, we are on 7 days a week. Does not matter the time. It's constant work of the day and seed planting for the future. I think that's usually what I would say is, if you are not fully committed to doing something for the long term, don't do it.
I would say make sure you have adequate cash reserves, because that will sink you if you Sure. don't have adequate cash, because a lot of times revenue is a roller coaster. It goes up and down, and your cash needs. We heard somebody speak several months ago, and she coined the phrase that I see a lot. It's work-life integration. Work-life balance, in my personal, I hate to tell people this, that doesn't really exist. Work-life balance, if you say, this is my me time, well, if there's an urgent need for the business, you need to step away and take care of it, even if it's for 5 minutes. I mean, look, we aren't in the store much anymore. 2 days a week, maybe, at most. But we're answering our chats, we're answering our texts, we're creating
constantly
content.
Constantly working on it.
So we have nice flexibility of getting away. I mean, look, we'll be in Europe for the month of August next year. I mean, we do get away, but our chat system is always with us on our mobile phones if we need to be answering questions. Now, the good news is our entire staff is on the chat system too.
I want to follow up on what you said, Wendy, because you said be prepared, be committed, makes total sense, work 7 days a week. That doesn't sound very exciting if you're someone that's considering starting a business. I'm curious, why haven't you traded that in? Why haven't you sold the business or gotten out? What keeps you engaged at that level?
I'm just not ready to give that up yet. I need something to focus on. I'm not ready to give it up. I love what we do.
It's been fun. It's been exhilarating. It's been gratifying. We made it our own. We started that. People ask us, they walk into our store and ask us if this is a franchise or where's your other location? Where are your other locations? Like, you're looking at it. This is it. This is us. It's our family.
That's right. Or did your parents start the business?
Oh yeah, we get that one all the time. Did your parents start the business?
Well,
no, we did.
For Daria, the answer is yes.
That's right. Exactly. Well, we're the founders, and they just were born into that.
So I'm reading between the lines here, Wendy, that for you, it doesn't feel like a burden to be doing this 7 days a week, because it is a passion, it's a love, it's something that you're proud of because you created it out of nothing, and you're constantly wanting to improve this thing.
And it is, when I look back, my father asked me if I had been drinking when I told him that I was going to open a bridal store. And if I look back now, I understand exactly what he was saying. But if I look back, I completely understand. We knew nothing of what we were about to embark on. And I think that's what makes it so gratifying, that we didn't know what we were doing, and now we're a top 100 business by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We could,
Yeah.
people can do what they put their minds to. But again, it's a commitment. And I never thought we would be in this for, oh, we'll just do this for 2 or 3 years. There really was no end date on that. And I guess there still isn't. We'll see where this leads.
Yeah. Has anything changed for you perspective wise? I mean, Wendy, it sounded like you were on the brink of wondering how long you were going to be around. And so you had that moment of thinking like, hey, I might be close to the end. I might have done all the things that I was put here to do. Has that changed any way that you think about your life and the business together?
I actually did not realize how serious it was for quite some time. It was probably a good week after the accident happened. I was pretty drugged up. They kept me, that way. But it just was out of nowhere. I was completely fine. I was we were hearing these rumblings of COVID, but we had all of these things. We had a fashion show that was coming up, a very big one, and all of a sudden, I can't walk. What happened? I think what that did was just make me realize that we need to take the vacations when we take those vacations. You work hard, but you also need to make those memories, because you just never know what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's made me live a little bit more in the moment. Although we still do make some plans to look forward to, obviously. So it was a shock, and it's still a shock that happened. Sometimes I still can't believe I'm disabled, I guess. But it made a much different worker out of me. It's given me a much different perspective as far as the importance of life, and
Yeah.
what's really a problem and what isn't.
Did you change anything structurally within the business in terms of how often you were going in, how many employees you hired? I mean, in terms of making that space to say, hey, I need to carve out some time to be not about the business.
What happened is Wendy can't stand for too long.
Okay.
It's too difficult. So since her accident, she doesn't work in the store anymore.
Got it.
I'm in and out very on occasion.
She'll go in just to get out of the house to, keep sane. We hired several other employees. Our daughter took over for basically Wendy's position, but we have a pretty big staff now that is compartmentalized to do all the operational work.
Yeah,
so that basically is the change. One big change personally for us is before, should we do this trip? Should we do? I don't care. We're going.
Yeah.
You don't know what's around the corner. Let's take the trip. Let's enjoy our daughters and time together. So that's been a big change.
Yeah. So it sounds like structurally what changed is you invested more in a team of
Correct.
people to do things. It's like life forced this event on you where you had to let go of some stuff and allow some other people to step in. And that is essentially what's created that space for you to have some of those vacations. I love that you're going to Europe for a month.
Yes. Yeah. We usually do 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And this one is just with us, not our daughter. So a little bit of time for us.
Yeah.
Get a little break.
Yes.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I really do appreciate you being here today. It's really fun to hear your story. You guys have done some really amazing things, and you should be proud of what you've built together. Sounds like you met a real need in your area. It sounds like you upped the bar for service for people that are getting married and going to dances where you live, and getting acknowledged by the Chamber of Commerce for that is well deserved. So Thanks for taking the time to share a little bit of your story with us. Thanks for listening to the Create the Life You Want podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to future episodes by clicking the subscribe button, you know where. If you're an aspiring business owner, you may also want to subscribe to the Create the Life You Want newsletter for more inspiration and tips delivered to your inbox every week. You can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my personal website, jeremyames.com. If you've already decided you want to start or buy a business, consider exploring your financing options by heading to our sponsor's website at www.guidantfinancial.com. That's GUIDANT financial.com. See you in the next episode.